Okay, today we're doing something a little bit different. I'm joined by Finbar, who is a student, a graduate of the 12-week program, as well as one of the traders at Tellus Capital, and also a personal friend. Today we're going to just have a casual yet inspiring discussion with Finbar. We're going to be talking about many different things. Finbar recently had an accident with his leg, which we're going to be talking a lot about. We're also going to be talking about personal development, trading mindset, all that type of stuff. So Finbar, welcome. Do you want to maybe give the audience a bit of an introduction about yourself and an insight into your life?
Yes, thanks for having me, Pat. Great to be here to talk to you. My name is Finbar McCann. I'm from Ireland. I trade the foreign exchange markets. And as of February 2024, I became an above-knee amputee. So there it is in a nutshell. Where would you like to start?
Let's start with the amputation. I think many people can get a lot of inspiration from your story. I know I definitely have. So do you maybe want to talk about what happened with your leg and the process of the amputation, and then maybe some of the lessons and some of the things you've drawn from that experience?
I was out riding bikes with some friends outside of Melbourne. We were doing some off-road riding. I lost control of my bike and I hit a tree and broke my leg. Quite a considerable break with the bone coming out through the skin. So I was losing quite a bit of blood. The guys that I was riding with just knew what to do, sprung into action. They got it all wrapped up and got in touch with the emergency services and got the helicopter out ASAP. The paramedics landed out, got the situation under control, got me into the helicopter to the Melbourne Royal Hospital, where I had emergency surgery, and we got the leg. We got the wounds under control and we got the leg stabilized. So I was in hospital for about a month and then had 2 following surgeries to get the leg reconstructed. So once the leg was reconstructed, I then started into some rehab, started working my way through that, and then we decided that because it's just rehab we have to do, let's go home to Ireland and continue on from there with our rehab. So we done that. We went home. I continued with my rehab for about another year.
So by this point, what was your leg? Was it was in a cast? You're on crutches. What did that look like for that year?
Yeah, it was just in a brace, just a removable brace that I could put on and off. But I was on crutches. I never got off crutches at all, and progress just seemed to slow down and stop. Knee functionality just wasn't coming back. My leg was nearly in a fully locked out position. I could only get little range of movement in it. And whenever we talked to the consultants in Ireland and they said, okay, we're going to have to do more surgery. This is going to take more surgical intervention. We decided that we'd come back to Melbourne to work with the team that had initially started this whole process. So jumped on the plane back to Melbourne. That was mid-2023. Back into the operating theatre. I had a further 2 surgeries to try to reconstruct it. Then at that point, they pretty much told me at that point that it was unfixable. We weren't going to be able to get knee function. We've got 2 options left. One is a fused knee joint, which would have left my knee in a locked out position forevermore. They would just fuse the joint straight. And the other option was above knee amputation. So with that information, I went home, jumped on the internet, done some searching, talked to some people, just trying to find out what was going to give me the best quality of life going forward. And very quickly came to the realization that it was above knee amputation that was going to give me the best quality of life going forward. So made the decision, and then in February 2024, then we went ahead with the surgery.
Mm-hmm. So for you, it was very important to be able to get your mobility back. You didn't want to live a life, even if you had your leg, with no mobility. You wanted to, do all the sport and the running and the cycling and all that type of stuff. So you came to the decision that the mobility, what was most important to you, and the only way you'd be able to get that is through the amputation.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I live a pretty active lifestyle, and I knew that a fused knee wasn't going to give me the quality of life that I wanted. And then looking online, looking at where prosthetics are at the moment is phenomenal. It was an easy decision to make, hard to accept, but an easy decision. That was going to give me the best quality of life. So yeah, we went ahead with that, and it's probably the best decision I ever made.
Well, that's an interesting thing to say, right? I think a lot of people, if you think back to that crossroad where you had to make a decision whether you get the amputation or fuse your leg, many people, in a situation like that would get overwhelmed. They would struggle. How, anybody listening to this going through a challenging situation like that, what perspective did you have towards that decision? How did you sort of come to that conclusion? How did you, what did you do to make that type of decision in that moment?
Yeah, well, all my decisions were based on quality of life going forward. I knew that this wasn't going to be fixed back to normal as it was, so we were going to have to look for the next best thing. So I reached out to people who had been down the road before me, people who had amputations before me, talked to them, talked to yourself, looked for some psychological ways to help deal with this and different perspectives to look at it from. And that really helped. It really helped make the decision for me, and also give me some contentment that life was going to be okay on the other side, because I suppose sometimes you think maybe your life's over when after an amputation, but it's really not the case.
Mm-hmm. And how is the quality of life now? I see that you had your running blade fitted, you're moving, you're getting your mobility back. How do you feel now that you've come out on the other side of that decision?
I feel great. It's because I lived with the injury for 2.5 years, and I know what that looks like. The way things are now are just so much better, incomparable. So yeah, I'm getting my mobility back. I've got, as you said, I got a running blade. I'm starting to run again. I'm able to get on a bike and cycle again. I'm back swimming, able to do all those things which I wasn't able to do before. So I just feel like I've got my life back.
Amazing. That's great to hear. And in terms of the next few months, 3 to 6 months, what are your sort of focuses with your leg and with your health? And are there any big goals with it, or any focuses in particular?
Yeah, just continue. I'm still doing quite extensive physio at the moment. I've got 6 physio sessions per week. So we're just getting through those. The team that I've got with me, taking me through this, are amazing. So any questions that I have, they just know the answer to it. They've just been through it so many times before. So yeah, just continuing with running, continuing to work on core stability and all the things that are going to give me a better walking pattern, and just make this as good as it can be. Goals wise, in the next 3 to 6 months, is maybe just try and get some distance in my running. I'm improving the technique, and I'd like to up the distance and maybe do a 5K, do something like that.
You've recently done a trip, and you did a big hike on the trip with your new prosthetic, right?
Yes, I did. So yeah, it's given me that back too. I'm able to do some hiking. It's a bit harder work. It's hard work to, go hiking, use a lot more energy. Because it's an above knee amputation, I use 80% more effort just for walking anywhere, just walking in general. So yeah, it's a big push for the body, but I mean, I'm just happy with the challenge, and I'll just get fitter and keep going with it.
Amazing. I love that perspective. Is there anything else you want to share on the amputation, or any sort of challenges or any thought processes you had to make with the decision, or any other goals you have with your prosthetic?
Yeah, so I reached out to some amputees who had been down the road before me, and they were just phenomenal and give me their insights to it and had answers to all the questions. So off the back of that, now that I've been through it, I've started a social media page, Instagram, TikTok, and I just want to be able to pay it forward to someone else who might find themselves in the position that I found myself in. And I just would like them to be able to look at my page, see what I'm able to do, reach out to me. It's the reason that I made the page. I want to just help as many people as I can through this. Inspire. If people come and look at the page and they're inspired by it, that's beautiful, but that's a byproduct of it. I just want to help as many people as I can.
I know when we caught up before you had the amputation, that was a big part of, your thought process. And when you started to talk about it, a smile came on your face because you knew that by going through this, you would be able to help so many people that were in a similar position, maybe not getting their legs amputated, but going through a challenging situation in their life. So I'm really excited to see what comes of that and the impact you make on people's lives.
Yeah, that's the goal. I just want to help people.
Okay, good. So this YouTube channel is Trading Mindset. It's all about the people that are watching are most likely traders that want to come in and get a fresh perspective that will help with their trading, which I think, your story and your mindset can very much offer the viewers. Do you want to share a little bit about your trading journey, how that's looked, sort of what you've done in terms of your trading journey? I know, we've worked quite closely together, and you've had an exceptional, you've done exceptionally well throughout your journey, far surpassed the success of many, many traders. So do you maybe want to share a little bit about your journey, what you've done, and talk a little bit about funding and the challenges you've had with that and the goals you have around that as well?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been trading for around 5.5 years now, which was a big change for me. I was an electrician from I was 16 up until I was 30 years of age. But the markets always called out to me. I was always very interested in the markets. And it took me until I was 28 to actually, get involved. I want to get involved in this market and find out what it's all about. So yeah, done some searching online, and I found some different communities, found some stuff on YouTube, what everyone does. Joined a community, and from there I got a very good understanding of the basics of it, from your risk management to the process-based thinking that is essential to be a trader. I got a very good understanding of all that, and I made some good connections, made some good friends in that community. They were very supportive. They were very supportive of helping me along, answering all the questions, going to some in-person meetups. And then again, whenever I met some people who were further down the road from me, who were trading, substantial amounts of capital, they were showing you trades, and you maybe got a little insight into how much was possible, how much you could make from this. It really lit a fire in me that, this is something that we can do. This is a full-time career. We can make this happen. So yeah, that was
amazing. And from that point until now, have you sort of gone on your own and discovered your own sort of way to approach the markets, creating your own systems, and what does your trading look like now compared to how it was when you initially started?
Yeah, when I initially started, I found I got all the basics and everything that I needed to know, all the ground level rules. The strategy itself just didn't resonate with me, so I moved on, looked for something different, and I found a strategy that I continue to trade to this day. And it's price action based, purely price action, zero indicators. We're just reading the candlesticks. I think there's enough information in the candlesticks without lots of indicators. So first thing I do is I look to see what phase of the market are we in. Are we in like an impulsive trending phase of the market, or are we in a consolidation ranging phase of the market? And once I've deciphered which phase we're in, I've got 3 entry models, 2 for the impulsive trending phase. So I'll look to get involved with those if any of those appear. And for the consolidation phase, I've got 1 entry point, and if that's where the market is at that moment in time, then I'll look for that entry model.
Perfect. And in terms of funding, you've had some great success with funding in the past, and you're scaling back up. Also, at this point in time, what can you share a little bit about your journey with funding, your relationship with funding, and also what maybe some tips and tricks that you implemented to help you get to the stage of funding that you have?
Yeah. So at the beginning, I done pretty well with funding. I got myself up to 7 figures in funding. Then the way that some of the prop firms were structured, some of them went down. I lost quite a bit of funding through prop firms disappearing overnight. After that, that was tough. That was tough to deal with. And after that, I found it difficult. I found my trading quite difficult after that. I found myself maybe chasing trades, doing the stuff that we shouldn't do, breaking my own rules. And I had lost some funding through not following my own rules. So looking back now, it's funny to say that I'm glad that it happened because it taught me so much. So I felt kind of like maybe I had a little bit of imposter syndrome at the time, maybe had built it up too fast, weren't worthy of it, all that. So yeah, I reached out to you and I done the 12-week mindset program, which has just taken my trading to another level. And although it's framed around trading, the principles that you teach, I've used a lot of those principles, even with my accident, for dealing with the amputation, with all that. I mean, it's psychology, it's human psychology that you're teaching, framed around trading.
And I appreciate that. It's always good to work with you, Finn. In terms of the funding, because I think, a lot of traders found themselves in that situation where, funding did disappear overnight. And you mentioned that you extracted some lessons from that, which helped in your journey. And looking back on it, it was something that was very beneficial. Can you talk a little bit more about that and maybe some of the lessons you learned from going through that experience with the funding and maybe what refinements you made to your trading to help you progress and become a better trader now?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that I learned was just getting very in-depth with your documentation of your trades, not letting yourself get away with poor trading. It was something, I kind of cut myself off from everyone else. I was trading on my own. I didn't have anyone holding me accountable. I was taking poor trades and allowing myself to get away with it. Gambling, that's what it was. But yeah, it really showed me how you need to have like a circle of accountability with an accountability partner or a few people who you keep in touch with. You're keeping each other accountable. You talk about the trades that you've taken, and hold yourself accountable and really document every trade that you take, your emotions, all of that, because then you can make data-backed decisions because you've got the data from previous trades.
Okay, very good. And what are some of the goals you have right now with your trading, with funding specifically and with trading specifically? What are some targets you're working towards?
Yeah, well, right now my goals are just continually executing my plan as closely to perfect as I can, scaling up my funding back up to where it was and to surpass that. I want to just continue scaling it up and trading at scale, and in a few years I would be moving some of the money that I have into other investments and maybe taking some pressure off trading as an income, and it would be more trading because you love the process.
Okay, and can we talk more about that in particular? You have, you obviously want to focus day to day on sticking to your plan and executing on that, and you'll set up accounts through, I'm assuming, prop firms at this point in time to scale up with funding. Yeah. Are you also utilizing personal funds and private investment, or are you just sticking down the prop firm route at this point in time?
Also, no, I'm using my personal funds too. my step-by-step process is to take the payouts from the prop firm capital and put that into my personal capital.
Yeah, so you got the prop firms running in the background as a way to leverage your skill. You've got your personal capital. The payouts you're getting from prop firms are going into personal accounts.
Yes.
Is that correct? And you've got everything set up on trade copies, I presume, at this point in time?
Everything set up on trade copiers, just the one master. And yeah, I don't want to be trying to juggle too much at once.
Perfect. And then you also mentioned that part of your goal is, utilizing trading to build up your income and nest egg of capital at this point. And then you're looking at alternative investments later down the track. What does that look like for you? What sort of route do you see yourself going down with that?
It'll be more mutual funds, more slower growth stuff. Things that will be for the longer term investments. And yeah, I would hope that those things will provide some income and just take that pressure off my trading.
Amazing. So you got your current trading strategy. You're trading. All you're doing every day is just focusing on executing on that process. And then you've got the prop firms running in the background on trade copiers. And then the profit or the payouts you make from those prop firms get reinvested back into your account. And that's the current strategy you have to grow, your wealth, your capital at this point, and then you'll look to diversify elsewhere later down the track.
Absolutely, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll just look for things that are a little bit lower risk, but yeah, lower risk and
Bit of diversification.
yeah,
Change it up a bit.
some diversification, yeah.
Very good. And what does your day-to-day look like? What does the routine look like? How do you manage your time here in Melbourne? Because it's probably different with the time zones in Ireland. So what does your day-to-day look like here versus when you're back home in Ireland?
Yes, my day usually starts with some movement, whether it's physio, whether it's swimming, or whether it's just gym work myself. So I'll start with that, some movement, get the body awake and blood flowing. Then I'll come back home, I'll have some breakfast, and then I usually get into some back testing, some strategy refinement, or depends what I'm working on that day, maybe testing out new entries, refining my existing entries, things like that. And then in the afternoon time, not every day, but a lot of days, I have a call with someone in my circle of accountability. So we can talk over what we're doing, working on currently, goals that we have, things like that. And then in the evening time, Melbourne time, the London market opens. So stuff usually starts happening. So yeah, from then on, I'm kind of at the screen and ready to enter any positions.
And does that look similar when you're back home in Ireland, or is that the day changes a little bit, doesn't it?
It all just happens a little bit earlier because, yeah, you want to get up and get the movement in and be ready to go for 8 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you talked a little bit about accountability in your day and you're having a circle of accountability. How has that helped you in your journey? What does that look like? How do you structure that to make sure you get the most out of it?
So I have weekly calls with a few different guys, and we just really just talk about what we're going to do that week, and we hold each other accountable. They say what they're going to have done for the week. I say what I'm going to have done for the week, and then next week you're held accountable to it. Did you get it done? Did you not? Why not? Those kind of things. Because if you just leave that on yourself, it's hard. It's difficult to hold yourself accountable because you will let things slide and it can be a very slippery slope.
Mm-hmm. And have you found that quite useful, having someone there holding you accountable day to day, week to week, to follow through and do what you said you wanted to do?
I find it as one of the most important things. We're social beings as humans. We're supposed to have people around us and communicate with people, but with this industry, if you allow it, you can be on your own in this industry very easily if you don't get yourself out there and find that accountability. And it's not good for your trading, and it's not good for your mindset. And
yeah, it's very easy to isolate yourself in in this game, and it's very easy to push everybody away and just focus on yourself. Are there any things that you did in particular earlier in your journey to find these types of people and to be able to make connections that would be beneficial through your journey? What did you sort of do to find these people? Where did you meet them and that type of stuff?
Through the communities that I was with, there was always like a good community mentality and Discord groups, and you got talking to people. And if there are ever any in-person meetups, I would definitely say to anyone listening, go to the in-person meetups, because you get so much more from an in-person interaction than you do from a Zoom call or from a message on a Discord, things like that. And you'll find people that you connect with very quickly. And that's how I've met everybody that I call weekly. I met at meetups, at trading meetups.
When we talk about trading psychology and trading mindset, have there been any lessons from your trading and your journey as a trader that you've then applied to going through the challenge with the amputation? Have there been any directly applicable lessons from that?
Yes, there definitely have. From the 12-week mindset program, I've used a few of the techniques that are taught in that. They've really moved my trading forward, but I was also able to use those exact same applications for the amputation and learning to deal with that, and just all about loss and gain, those kinds of things that you teach in it. I was able to directly use those to help my mindset for the amputation.
One thing I found really interesting when we caught up before you had the amputation was your perspective on the amputation. You were almost, you felt like prior to the amputation with your leg, the way it was braced and you're in crutches, you didn't have any mobility. You couldn't do what it is you wanted to do. And one thing that you said, or I'm paraphrasing here, that it's almost like the amputation was a relief of that, and you could finally get your mobility back. You could finally go off and do the things you wanted to do, like the running, the cycling, the hiking, all that type of stuff. Is that partly true? Is that sort of the perspective you had on the amputation, that it was a relief from, and you finally got your mobility back and you could do what it is you wanted to do?
Yeah, that is 100% true, because before the amputation, I thought life was going to be very different after the amputation, but upon reflection, after it's all happened, my life changed the day of the accident, and the amputation was just the next step forward in regaining my mobility. It was the logical thing to do. So it was an easy decision to make, but it was tough to deal with. But yeah, it's definitely was the next step forward, the logical step.
It was a standout conversation. It was a very different perspective, I think, that you had on this, on this situation. Most, for anybody, this would be a very challenging situation to go through. But I think your perspective on it was something that was very, very interesting, very inspiring, because that ultimately, that helped you get through it. All right, so you've had 5 years or so experience trading, and you've scaled up, managing 7 figures of capital, and you're trading 7 figures of capital. And there are a lot of psychological challenges that come with that many of the viewers would be watching and would want to, probably want to ask you. A few questions I have for you in terms of, fear and greed and discipline and all that type of stuff. Let's start with fear and greed in your trading. How did you, or what processes did you put in place to be able to manage fear and greed when you were trading larger and larger amounts of capital? Is there anything in particular that you did?
I had went through a stage of coming off the back of a profitable trade. I found that I was jumping into a low probability trade and taking a loss. So that would be the fear and greed kicking in. I had to just kind of put the brakes on and say, if I took a trade that was a winner, no more trading for the day. I had to, let the emotions come back to neutral and come back at it the next day with a fresh mindset. And that was one of the things that I done.
So you noticed that you found a pattern in your trading that whenever you came off winning streaks?
Usually off a winning streak, I started taking low probability setups.
And then one of the things you did with your trading is you implemented a daily trading rule. So after, was it one trade, win or loss, you wouldn't trade anymore for that day?
Not so much. If it was a loser, I tended to be okay. And if another trade waited for a high probability setup, if it came along, I could execute that okay. But my emotions were heightened coming off a winning trade, especially when you start to scale up and you start maybe thinking about the monetary gain and things like that. The emotions get heightened, and I felt that I just needed to step back and let my emotions come back to neutral before going at it again. The other thing was good documentation of all of that, and it's the only way that I saw the pattern emerge, that I was taking good trades and then straight away taking a poor trade, from good documentation from everything.
So you've been doing a lot of analysis and documentation of your own behavior as a trader and identifying what patterns you're going through. So for example, one of the patterns is that whenever you have a good profitable winning day, you're more likely to give that profit back to the market. And then you've implemented a process to be able to manage that. Are there any other patterns that you found in your trading, in your behavior as a trader, that you've been able to identify and manage because of the documentation and review?
Yes. Through the documentation, I've found you find little pitfalls in your trading strategy, and sometimes there's certain price action where you're just not sure if is it definitely trending, it's kind of trending, you're just not sure. Those areas where you just need to be able to put it in a box. Is it trending? Yes or no? Is it ranging? Yes or no? It needs to be one or the other. And if you don't know, step back from the market and don't take a position. I tended to curve fit at the start, and I would talk myself into, I think it's trending, and take a position, take a lot of low probability positions. And through the documentation of all of that, everything has to be black and white. It has to be yes or no. There can't be anywhere in between with your checklist. It's a tick box.
Perfect. And can we talk a little bit more about that documentation and review process? How often I'm assuming you document after every trade, at the end of every trading day, or is that at the end of every week?
I document every trade as it happens. Yep. If I enter a trade, I write down, I take screenshots of it, I take up my checklist box and everything checked off, and then I write about why I think this is a good trade, and then I write about my emotions. Then I write about whenever the trade has taken me out for a win or loss, document all that, how I feel about the trade now. Do I still think it was high probability? And then I just have that in a Notion document. And at the end of the month, I'll go back and I'll review every single trade that I took that month. And you see patterns emerge very quickly.
Mm-hmm. And so you're reviewing every month, is that correct?
Every month, yeah.
And how often, if you see a pattern, how long, how much data would there be? Would it be 3 months or 6 months of data to then make a decision on, this is a common pattern in my trading and I'm going to make a change? Or is that pretty obvious at the end of every month?
I find it pretty obvious for me at the end of every month. Sometimes, maybe so I've had some difficulty a few months ago with my ranging trades, my range-bound trades. I've taken quite a few losses and had to dig in deeper as to why is this happening? Is this just the edge playing out? There's a series of losses, or is it I'm entering poor trades? So I can see that at the end of the month, and I'll try and make changes pretty fast. But stop loss size and take profit size, I wouldn't be looking to change anything like that with a month's worth of data. It would need to be 3 to 6.
So because we've talked recently about how you were the strategy you're trading is quite reliant on a trending market, and that's how you make the decisions typically. Mm-hmm. But more recently, as we've gone into more of a corrective range-bound market, you're finding the strategy isn't performing as well. So you've been able to go in there and see that and make changes to your trading. Can we talk a little bit more about that? And I think the audience will get a lot of value from how you've sort of handled a shift in market condition and what changes you've made and what you've looked at to make those types of decisions.
Yeah, so I initially was just trading a trending impulsive market. I only had entry points for that kind of market. Last year didn't work out the very best for me. The probabilities just didn't play out in my favor for the trending conditions. So there's now been a range bound entry created with the data from 2023, and obviously back tested further back and make sure this works over the large sample size. So yeah, it's just getting clear. I suppose everyone's looks at it slightly different, but whenever we're in what I deem to be trending market conditions, I look for a trend. But yeah, that could be slightly different to someone else. I could say we're in an impulsive leg of the market where as someone is seeing a large sideways range, but I suppose that's how you get the winners and losers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. And going back to talking about trading psychology and trading mindset stuff, we talked a little bit about fear and greed and how you manage that. And we've talked a little bit about how you optimize your strategy and yourself as a human based on data that you collect. Another big question that I get from traders is how do you manage discipline, or how do you cultivate discipline in your trading? You've been doing this the last 5 years. You've had great success in it. What sort of processes or things have you implemented to help cultivate discipline in your trading?
The documentation was a big driving factor in the discipline because you have to know what the problem is to fix the problem. So you need good documentation to be able to work through those issues that you're having. If you're impulsive, why are you impulsive? Those kinds of things. But yeah, if you don't document it, maybe you don't realize that you're being impulsive.
Let's explore that a little bit. So one of the big things that I love to share is you want to have a trading process or a trading plan that is 100% mechanical, right? And something that we've discussed a lot and something that you have is a system that's so black and white that you can just follow, and there's no guesswork, there's no discretion in the market. It's either a yes or a no, right? With that, is that right with your strategy?
Yes, it definitely is. I feel it has to be like that because once you start to scale up and the monetary side starts to get larger, discretion plays a bigger and bigger role. And I like my rules to be black and white, yes or no. And yeah, it's easy to follow.
And have you found that helps with your discipline and with your execution, just having a set, a set guideline, a set of rules that you know exactly in this situation I'm taking or I'm not taking? I think at least what I've seen is that traders, the more discretion they have and the more umming and ahhing and uncertainty they have when they're making a decision, it becomes very difficult to stick to their edge and have discipline in the execution of their edge, because a lot of the times there's an enormous amount of confusion in the market. So, if you were to look back on your journey, do you think you would have been able to get to where you are if you didn't have such a clear black and white mechanical system?
I don't think I would have, no. I need for me, I need the rules. I need it to be black and white. A yes or a no. And those kind of in between areas, I just see them as little pitfalls in your trade plan for me, where I need to iron those out and it needs to fit in a box. That gives you the clarity to execute your plan no matter how much you're trading. And obviously once you pick up a prop firm and the next prop firm and the next one, and you're looking at the monetary side of it, yeah, the discretion just gets out of control, and then you're cutting trades short, and you've got no defined way of managing trades. Whereas I trade the same way. I lock in profit exactly the same way, no matter how much it is. It's just I've got a system, and that's it. Follow the system.
I think that's human nature as well. It's like we want rules, we want set rules, we want set boundaries, and whenever something that is outside of that gets presented to us, it becomes very overwhelming, and we don't know what to do because it's unfamiliar. So I think, from what I've seen from your success and from some other very successful traders, is they very much have clear black and white rules, and when the market presents an opportunity, it becomes very obvious whether that's a trade they want to take or not. And the traders who really struggle and they're very overwhelmed, they're very flustered, and they're very emotional in the market are those who just don't have enough clarity and certainty in their own edge, and they haven't put that into a mechanical system. So when they come to the market and they're presented with all this information, all this data, they don't know what to do and they become overwhelmed. So from what I've seen, at least with your success and with other traders, is that those who have a clear mechanical system tend to do much better than those that don't.
Yeah, I can see how that would be that way, because if you've got a lot of discretion in it, it's hard to document that when you know exited a trade at 3% and it ran to 12 this time, and it's just hard to document that and know what to do in every time you enter the market. It's completely different.
100%. I was going to ask you, how do you deal with the stress and pressure of scaling up? But a question I have for you is, did you find that scaling to 7 figures was stressful, or there was a lot of pressure around it? Or when you sort of break it down into what are the actual components of getting there, it just becomes you sticking to your trading plan and your trading processes. So the actual monetary value or the stress of losing and winning more amounts of money doesn't actually have that much of an effect on you. What's your perspective on that?
My perspective is it really shouldn't. It shouldn't change. You should just follow the process. But I did find, going from 6 to 7 figures, that I had some heightened emotions, and it was purely just thinking of the monetary side of it. How much you were up or down was way bigger than before.
And contextualizing it as well. It's like, if a loss was, if you're trading $1 million worth of capital and you're risking 1%, it's $10,000.
Yeah.
If you contextualize that $10,000, you're like, oh, that could have bought me a car, or that could have bought me a watch, or it has a bigger effect on you, doesn't it?
Big time. Yeah, it really does.
But if we come back and circle back to what we're talking about with the trading plan, the process, and the focus becomes on just sticking to the process, and you really just see the numbers as numbers on the screen, and you stick to just the trading process every day and your focus is on that,
yes,
then it lessens the significance of the wins and the losses, the outcome.
Completely. If you just, exactly as you just said, if you just stick to the plan and forget about the monetary side of it and trade your edge, it really shouldn't make a difference. So maybe sometimes you've got some limiting beliefs, things like that, maybe moving to 7 figures, emotions get high, things like that. You maybe have some limiting beliefs that you can work through, but that's some inner work that needs to be done.
That's something quite big that we can speak about. A lot of traders who are now managing quite significant amounts of money. I was working with someone who had their dad who had a perspective that you had to work very long and hard hours to make a certain amount of money, and that was a belief that this trader had injected, and whether they're aware of it or not, they had that belief running in their mind. And then I think in today's day and age, there are ways, especially with prop firms, where you can leverage your skill and you can make a lot more money than people before prop firms couldn't. And this trader had this internal conflict because, based on their processes and based on how much capital they had that they were trading, they could make a lot of money in quite a short period of time. But they also had this internal belief injected from their dad of how they had to make money over, slow and hard work. And it created an internal conflict within that individual. And they had the potential to make a lot of money, but that didn't sit well with their belief system and how they were programmed as an individual. And that created a lot of issues, that created a lot of internal conflicts and stress and that type of stuff. So I think, as you're talking about, when you scale from 6 to 7 or even 5 to 6 figures, there's a lot of emotional and psychological things that pop up and a lot of belief systems that need to be addressed. Otherwise, you'll struggle to make that transition.
Yeah, for sure. I've had some limiting beliefs that I didn't even know that I had until I, I turned inwards and started to look at me instead of looking at the trading strategy. And whenever you start doing those kinds of work and bring some stuff to the surface that, you didn't even realize were a problem, and then you need the tools to work through those and get through those limiting beliefs, because they're just beliefs. They can be changed.
Yep. I think I think psychology plays a huge role in your trading. But you have to have a strategy there that's profitable first, and once you have that and you start to scale up, then the psychology becomes a very, very crucial part of the game.
Yeah, it really does. It's so important. You have to look inwards. You have to do some work on yourself and get through all of this.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap up here. Finbar, thank you so much for your time coming out here and sharing your perspective and sharing your journey. I know this is never an easy thing for anybody to do, and thank you for pushing yourself out your comfort zone and being here. You did mention that you have Instagram and a TikTok.
Yes.
I think you have a TikTok as well.
I do, yeah.
Yep. And I'll leave those links in the description so people can go into there, follow you, and follow your journey, because I know there's going to be a lot of inspiration and value that you're going to push out on both those pages. So I'll leave those linked in the description below. But again, thank you for being here. And it's great speaking with you.
Thank you very much for having me, Pat. It's always good to talk to you.